Right, we are missing a couple of folks today. And I think we have quorum. So let's get going. I am not sure if Frickler's online, but I'm just gonna tease him into joining like this. Okay, so we can get started. Thank you all for joining. So this video meeting is the primary place where we're going to chat, but I'm going to try to take notes on the IRC meeting room as well. So feel free to type stuff out there as well for posterity and for our logs there. And this video meeting will be uploaded to YouTube as usual. And Jay, I think, usually provides a thing on the code of conduct, so I'm going to read it out as well. So a reminder that we have a code of conduct for meetings such as this, and it's published over there. And you all are veterans at this meeting, so I'm sure you've been to that code of conduct page. And today's meeting agenda, we don't really have much besides some revolving topics, so let's get right on to it. Let's begin with some AI so we had from last week. So PyPy maintainers cleanup. Well, it was I was just following up on this stuff, but an update from here from the OpenDev meeting was that it is cumbersome to provide the login credentials to members of the TC. Although you've gracefully and graciously offered to help with the cleanup effort, it's harder to coordinate with the the two-factor authentication that's there on PyPy. So instead, what the OpenDev folks were thinking about, the infra folks, was that they would have the TACT-SIG help out. The folks on the TACT-SIG already have access to the OpenStack CI account. But at this point they have been volunteered to do this cleanup, and you'll see a lot of the stuff has already been cleaned up, and it's on the tracker. Wait, Clark, you were muted. You want to say something?
Yeah, you can finish up. I was just gonna mention
Yes.
one thing when you were done.
Sure. No, go for it.
Oh, I was to say, so yeah, I think Frickler has been doing the bulk of the work and has been just kind of hitting it, once a day or whatever, go through several of them.
Yeah.
So I think progress is being made, as you mentioned. And then the other thing was, during our meeting last week, it came up that it might be a good idea to, if possible, to come up with a way for the upload account to not be the owner account, like basically have that kind of split apart so that the TC or whoever can do these ownership management things independently of the upload stuff, and still have it, be a very limited number of accounts that are controlled by, rather than random people, random individuals, have it more centralized. And I think, in theory, that would require some sort of shared credential store or way of sharing that, as well as the two-factor auth secret key or whatever. It's top P, so it's time-based. One-time passwords is, I think, what PyPI uses, or is one of the options that you can use, and you can share that secret code to generate the time-based tokens as well. I don't think that's very urgent. It was just more of a, it would be nice to kind of decouple those two things if possible, and so I wanted to throw that idea out there.
Yeah. So can I ask a question? So you're saying that folks that are in the TC will have access to the second account, and can make stuff like this. Is that the idea?
Yeah, or maybe the TC delegates or the release team or whatever. But basically, rather than have OpenDev have to do all of OpenStack's PyPI account management,
yeah,
which is kind of like where we're at today because of history, we could as a second pass to this, add a secondary account that is an owner that is used for managing the packages, not uploading. We would still have a CI account, or a build related account for uploading, but then have a second one that could be used for things like removing people or adding people. I think one of the examples that came up was when retirement happens, of a repo. You may want to go in and do something with the packaging as well. I think the way PyPI works, that's actually a little bit clunky. Like, you can't edit the README directly. You have to push a new package to do that, for example. So that might still be of limited utility, but that was the idea, is give you guys a little bit more control without needing to delegate through the TAC-SIG.
That
So
sounds like a good.
in,
Sorry, go ahead.
so just a question on that uploading also, like we have a single account, right? OpenStack CI for all the other project, then OpenStack. Are we separating that too per project,
Yeah, that
or
also
keeping
came up. I don't think that's urgent either, because it's called OpenStack CI because that's what we used, back in like 2013 or whatever, right? What the name is a matter of history. I think that, yes, we could add a second account, or even say, Zool should have its own account and Starling X should have its own, and it doesn't even have to be.
Yeah, I mean, I know
It could,
this the name, but I mean, like uploading account also, if that can be separated for projects, and obviously that can have a limited permission than the other one of adding, removing the things.
yeah, and that was part of the thought process behind having a secondary owner account, is that then the upload one could be less privileged,
Yeah.
as well, even whether or not that's an OpenStack CI account or something new or whatever. I think projects can already opt into doing that. The way the jobs are written, I believe you can provide your own secrets and pass them through. I don't know that for sure. So I guess what I'm saying is, if someone wanted to publish and not use the OpenCI account, they can already do that today. It just requires a little bit of effort on their end. They'd have to create the account. They'd have to put the credentials in a Zool secret. And I guess that's another thing that's worth noting, just for information purposes, is that PyPI requires two-factor auth today for interactive logins, but the uploads are done using tokens. And so I believe the token is also scoped to, or can be scoped to, like, this is a token that can only do uploads. It can't delete stuff or whatever. I guess the other thing related to this is, once the stuff that we do have permissions to modify is done, there's still that small list of projects that we don't have permissions to modify.
Yeah.
I was going to ask, we know what that list is now, right? Because Jeremy logged in and got a listing.
Yes.
So I do wonder if it's worth starting to contact the PyPI admins now, just because we expect that to take a lot of time. So getting started earlier on that is probably better than waiting. But I'm not sure if there's anything else. Like, maybe
No,
we
I
want
think
to
we were
continue.
just doing this serially, and I think you're right. We
Okay.
should parallelize this. And I did contact a couple of maintainers. I got a response from one of them, and I guess they didn't realize that this cleanup was happening, and they were like, "Okay, I don't mind getting off the list," but I've not responded to them to let them know that we don't have permission to remove them. So I'll follow up with that list. It probably, in this week, send emails first to these folks. Maybe they're all in the same state where they missed this activity because it was quite long drawn out. So maybe they missed some emails. And so I'll refresh the information there and say, hey, if you have access to your PyPI accounts, can you add OpenStack CI to the maintainers, and can you actually take yourself off the maintainers list?
Yeah, and then eventually we should have just a small list that we need to go through the PyPI admins for.
Yes.
Which, yeah. Okay.
And then there is also this other list at the in the same Etherpad that we have where we don't have the metadata in the right place. It could be that the package name is different, or a single repo is publishing multiple packages, but is the setup.cfg that we are parsing does not really have the right information. I don't know how these are getting pushed though into PyPy. So maybe our automation to pull this package list is somewhat clunky.
Yeah, and that should be resolvable. Like if you go look at job history on Zool, you should be able to see, okay, it is a Zool job, and then work backward from there to figure out how it's happening.
Okay. Makes sense. So if you're curious, that's on line 413 of this Etherpad as well. So this will continue into next week. So I have at least one AI to make sure we contact the the package maintainers of those that we're missing OpenStack CI on, and this other stuff to work backwards on the Zool stuff. So we'll do that. And let me switch over to the next one, Monasca and Freezer Zool configurers. I apologize. I actually didn't have time to contact the maintainers here, but we have Dimitri here, so we can rehash what we were talking about. So Dimitri, I think some of the branches have Zool configurers for Freezer, and this includes the unmaintained branches. That's the ones that Frickler was concerned about. But if you, I think there are Zool configurers in a lot of places across a lot of repositories. But we specifically were looking at Monasca and Freezer because these were previously in the inactive projects list.
Yeah, I'm trying to catch up. It was 3 weeks when I was mostly away, so I'm trying to catch up with things. So, and among them also, I know OpenStack will also have a couple of errors on unmaintained branches. So I'm trying to keep up with them, and I will, try to solve them until next meeting, if it works for you.
Okay.
And one more thing, like as Freezer still in inactive state, same for Monasca. I think this milestone 2 this cycle is, the deadline where you can fix and propose it to remove from inactive list. Otherwise, they may go with the other next step. And
yeah, I'm not sure how happy I am with activities there yet. So maybe it makes sense to, for Freezer specifically, maybe it might make sense to keep it for another release, and then maybe for 2025.1 or something, but we'll see.
mm-hmm. Yeah, and on Monasca, I think there was a mailing list. Someone replied and they're trying to fix the CI. And after that, I replied them like it's in inactive list, so they have to work to make it active. So maybe they are working, but I don't know the exact status about their plan, and if they know the deadlines. I can ping them they asked for help in some of the CI fix. I think Takashi replied how they need to fix the Joule thing. And after that, maybe we need to just update them. This milestone to it is the deadline, and if they can keep up all the gate or this Joule configure, obviously green. And what's the plan?
Makes sense. So besides Monasca and Freezer, there are other projects too, right? On the radar for inactive list.
So currently these two are the only one in the inactive list, and the one which left from the leaders list activity is the watcher, which Dan I think updated at last meeting about the plan. So other than that, there is a charm, OpenStack charm, where I try to reach out on IRC mailing list everywhere, but
Yep.
I don't know, that member is he was active. They were active like on IRC few weeks ago. So maybe they just missed the governance change. So do we want to just wait for them to fix that spelling, or we can just update the spelling and merge it? And
for which?
OpenStack Charm. There's a PTL appointment proposal
Charms.
is there. Yeah, Charms.
Yeah.
And there was some spelling mistake, and we were waiting for that PTL volunteer to come up and fix that. But that is not done. But I see that member is active in that IRC channel on project activities.
And you pinged them on IRC too, right? I saw that.
They were not online when I pinged them.
Okay.
But I pinged them with their IRC nickname, and on email also. I think I replied with their personal email ID, whatever we have in the narrator there. So, but no response.
I have a question regarding, have you concluded about career lead network, which is one of things that Zoom is requiring on, because career was, yes, like for the something I can't remember what we come up with. So did Zoom step in for
yeah? So I think that Zoom adopted the Courier and Courier lib networking repository. So it's all under that project now, and two repository left is Courier Kubernetes and its Tempest plugin, which I am going to propose it on the mailing list. If I don't know if I have done it or not, I'll check that. If not, then I'll ask if any volunteer to. I think I did last week. So based on that, I think in before milestone 2, I think we can just go for the retirement of those two repository directly, or we can make it inactive, however, like we decide. But I send those remaining repository notification on email, and maybe we'll wait for some time if anyone comes up and wanted to maintain them. But the main repository, Courier lib network, has been in the June governance.
Okay, thanks.
Yeah, so Charm one, I think we just need to decide things instead of keeping it open. I'll just suggest to fix the spelling mistake, merge it, and see if they are going inactive, they're not able to release or CI things happening, then obviously we can discuss it again.
Yeah, it might be a little heavyweight for them, given that they're concentrating on an older release, and that's where all the updates seem to be happening. And then there is the effort to try to make a mono repo out of all of the existing projects that have spawned out of that stuff. So a lot of work going on at the same time as keeping up with the release cycles and the leadership changes. So it makes sense, but I wanted to suggest let's table this for another week, bump the email thread, and I'll bring it back up during the next weekly meeting, and we'll see what we can do.
Yeah, sounds good.
Okay. All right. I wanted to check in on the last AI that we have from last week. It was the revival of Watcher and seeding the core team list. Is there anything to follow up on that, Dan?
I don't think so. We got I got it all fixed and the tests running, and Gman +2 did, and we waited around a little bit, and I just figured I had only written or 4/5 of the patch, so I just gave it +W, and then Slavic swooped in and added his +2, so we're good. So I think we're good there. I'm still playing around with it, and I think we're still deciding if we, are interested. But it's working. It's running its tests, so that's good at least. And it was all SQL Alchemy 2 related failures. I was quite pleasantly surprised that the tests and the jobs and all that stuff seemed to be fairly modern and fresh and working and reliable. I ran it several times while I was trying to chase down one last failure, and it was behaving the same every time. So that's good for a kind of abandoned project to be in that good a shape, I think. And it
Awesome.
should have been fine if we hadn't switched the SQL Alchemy depth. So
okay. Makes sense. That's a wrap on the AIs. We did take another one. Am I missing anything anything else to follow up on action items from last week? If not, thanks, Dan. And let's move on to the next one, which is Skyline graduation. Well, this was brought up on the TC channel, and I thought we could have a a conclusion on what our discussions were around this. So as you can see, we've had Skyline on that list of emerging projects for quite a while now. I think it was added in the Z cycle. And we've continuously monitored this, but there have been multiple cycles of PTL appointments because I mean it's been the same PTL, but they've not nominated themselves during the nomination period, missed the nomination period, and have had to seek an appointment each time. And so that was a little concerning in terms of project activity. The other aspect is meetings in the public forum. So, I mean, there was no evidence of weekly meetings or so, or of PTG gatherings as such. And there is a requirement in the project team guide that we want, anything which tracks project activity like a meeting needs to be done in public fora. And that was, I mean, maybe it's that this project team is quite small and everything just happens on the IRC channel and there is no need for a regular meeting or so. But that's the state of things. I don't know if folks had other thoughts on this.
Yeah, I mean, in terms of activity or late activity, PTL thing and all that, obviously is not new for this project. We have the same for any other project also. But I remember when we didn't accept it as a complete official project. The main reason was, I think, their Python packaging, how their code structure repository was.
Mm-hmm.
Because they have that API server separately and then other part, I think. I don't know exactly, but that was the main reason of their code base structure and their Python packaging structure. If that is solved, I think we should check with them if we can go ahead. Otherwise,
so I guess Flickr is more in touch with them. I guess so. I'm not completely sure. About packaging, at least they now publish console on PyP. However, I have never seen them backporting anything to any stable branches, which I mean might be fair enough. So basically, they just release and package it only just at the beginning of cycle and they do branching. But other than that, project is actively developed from what I can tell, and I see good improvement. So I'm looking at it from release to release, and I see visual changes in amount of supported features, projects, and support servers. So, I mean, it's yeah.
Yeah, I just used this tool to check project stats from Gerrit, and it seems like in last 180 days they had 90 something changes, most of them merged. So from those stats, it also looks like the project is actively developed still. So yeah.
But they pretty much do not communicate in IRC, to be fair. So it's not one of there is like no meetings or anything like that. It's hard to get them on IRC. But again, I mean, Flickr has contacts with them, so he might know more.
But I think they're a relatively cohesive team from one organization that's in Asia, right? So they probably, I'm guessing that's just not very conducive to like,
Public meetings.
it's not great, but also not, no need probably to communicate very much externally, right? I mean, we all kind of like fall into that thing where, if you're all on the internal chat and the external chat, stuff that should be external happens internally way too much. So I imagine.
Yeah, but probably we can somehow appreciate them, send a positive feedback when we are about to, say like emergent, but we won't see these areas of improvement. So giving positive feedback may
Sure.
motivate them to.
Yep.
That sounds like a good idea.
They themselves raised
Mhm.
interest in becoming active or basically graduating.
They did back at the time, but I'm not sure if this discussion was raised for the last, I don't know, 4 cycles or something. But they were actually pretty much willing to emerge.
Maybe that would be one of the points to check with them.
Yeah, typically, I mean, my hope is folks are that are deploying and using these projects are looking at this, tracker and saying, okay, this project is going inactive. This project is still an emerging project, so I can vet this, but maybe I won't use this in production until this becomes a fully graduated project and so on. So that's kind of what we're hoping this is. But if folks are already using this and probably not paying attention to the fact that they're emerging, maybe that's the motivation for them to not come back to us and say, hey, can we get off this list? Because we did see them in the user survey, right? There were some folks that were using Skyline.
Yeah, I mean, even though in OpenStack Ansible community, I know at least I know 5 deploys who just deploys it manually because we didn't have it because it was an emergent state, so we didn't want to spend our time for integration. But obviously, demand is there, and people want to use it. So, and people are already using it. So.
Yeah. I was mainly worried about this console and API server. API server is not that big, I think. Console, as Dimitri mentioned, they have on PyPy. I mean, for me, these IRC active PTL point proposal and all these are, good to have, but not the things we should block because many other project also, not online on IRC due to time zone or their uh, language barrier or whatever. So those are very high bar. Even though we monitor those for our existing project, we might find many projects, such project, they don't have participation in PTZ or they don't online on IRC, and also we should not, consider all these as a blocking path for them. As long as Dimitri mentioned, people are using it and there are activities, Slavic mentioned, things are merging and they are there, so we should go ahead. Because I see the Frickler mentioned about the requirements in the PTL appointment chains. They're like being online on IRC and all those stuff. Those I feel like is a little high bar for them, considering like their time zone and the APAC and their language barriers. So I'm good if things are already working there and moving them, ask them to propose it just as a normal official or complete official project.
Okay. That would be the AI, right? Like get them, I mean, send an email on the ML and probably copy the PTL because they seem to also have some issues catching up
Yeah.
with email. Okay.
Yeah.
Sure.
I mean, it will be good, like maybe Frickler can initiate that because he was like volunteering for PTL also. So he's more closer to that state and their conversations. So if he can initiate or he can talk to them to, start the proposal in governance.
Okay. Okay, I can take an AI to chat with Frickler if since he doesn't seem to be in the IRC meeting right now, but we can just chat maybe when he's around and leave this thing for him. Awesome. Thank you. Anything else about Skyline? If not, let's move on to our tracker. And we don't need to bring up every item on the tracker, just something that needs attention. If folks are waiting on reviews or have seen something drop off from attention, could you please? I mean, you can go ahead and bring up those items here. There's nothing that is time critical. We have been making a lot of progress on each of these.
Just one thing to mention, I think last week I mentioned about this project retirement cleanup.
Mm.
So I was doing that. I realized there are a lot of things to clean up. So I'll go with the path, like to skip all those existing, not cleaned up thing, and I'll make our script, ignore those existing one, but enforce the retirement cleanup thing for anything coming in future.
Yeah.
So I'll do that update, script. Initially, I thought of fixing that, but there are deb/open is the, I think, more than 100, 200 or whatever.
Yeah.
I stopped counting that, and then I thought of not to do. So just one update on that, how we are going to do that one.
Any concerns about that? I would doubt, because I think Kancham, you're doing a bulk of the work. So thank you for that. I doubt anybody has a concern to
Yeah,
try to
actually,
fix it up
it
on the.
missed that. I think Solemn project I did retire, so there was this one mistake I did in repo cleanup, and that was not cached by our script. So I was wondering like why. Then I found like we skipped the retirement. Where it checks when there is a complete project team retirement. So
Yes.
that's what the fix will be. So it will be good to capture those for future retirement.
Okay, cool. Thanks, Kancham. All right. Anything else on the tracker that needs attention? Yeah. Shout out to Frickler again for getting 50 packages addressed out of the list of 100 and something. It is an arduous task. Okay. That was the last topic on the agenda. I did want to call out, actually, let's skip to open topics and we can chat about something else. But I did want to call out that you folks can actually add items on the agenda if you'd like some formal space, because many a times we might actually run out of time by the time we end up in open discussion. So because I've seen folks bring up really interesting, important things on open discussion, and we have had to close the meeting without a discussion on those properly. So please feel free to edit this wiki, anytime before the meeting. All right. Since we are at open discussion.
Question,
yep, go for it.
Yeah, one question on that, the OpenStack charm thing we discussed. So you're going to bump that email, or you want me to do?
I can do it.
Okay, perfect. I have kept the OpenStack mailing list.
Yes.
So yeah, cool.
Awesome. A last call for topics for the open discussion. Anybody has anything to bring up? Sounds like not, which is good because I think it's already quite late in some time zones. So let's wrap it up and catch up next week.
Oh, thanks.
Thanks a lot for leading the meeting.
Thank you.
Thank you, guys.
Bye.
Thank you.